Hello, and in this part 2 video, I'm going to describe a time when you had some medicine. You should say when it happened, who gave it to you, why you had it, and explain how you felt about it. I regularly take tablets if I have a headache or back pain, but I'm not sure I could talk for 2 minutes about that, and they are not really memorable experiences. So I've chosen to talk about a time when I had to take some medicine for something more serious. When I was growing up, I often caught colds, but I remember one time, I'm not entirely sure when it was, but I was still in primary school and I was feeling under the weather. I had a particularly bad chesty cough and tightness in my chest. The cough was keeping me awake all night, so I was feeling pretty rough. I was off school for a few days, but it didn't clear up, so my mum took me to see our GP. He listened to my chest and asked me about my symptoms. I told him about the tightness, the shortness of breath, the chesty cough, etc., and he said that I was suffering from a chest infection. He said that the only way to cure it was to have a course of antibiotics. He prescribed the antibiotics and told me to come back and see him after 5 days. I was so relieved to get some treatment. After the first dose of medicine, I immediately felt better. Within a few days, the cough had almost gone. However, the doctor said it was vital to finish the course of antibiotics. On the 5th day, I returned to the doctor's surgery, and when he listened to my chest again, he said it was back to normal, and the infection had been cured. Okay, let's take a look at some of the language used in this model answer. Like all IELTS topics at the moment, they're all very tricky questions, and I think it's very difficult to talk for 2 minutes about a time that you took tablets. So you need to have some vocabulary prepared in order to have enough to say for this answer. So the collocation: we take tablets, we take medicine. A memorable experience, you can use that for talking about a lot of topics, things that you remember very clearly. I've chosen to talk about, I try to put this in a lot of my part 2 answers because it's getting the present perfect in there at the start of your answer and showing that you have some grammatical range. Another way to show your grammatical range is to get a past continuous. When I was growing up, when I was studying in primary school. So try to remember to use this in your answers. In your 1 minute, write down when I was growing up or when I was studying in primary school to remind you, because it is such good grammar to impress the IELTS examiner. Another one I keep repeating because you're only going to answer one part 2 question. So in all my videos, I think it's good if I keep repeating things so that in your one answer, you will hopefully remember these phrases. I'm not entirely sure, meaning I don't know. So don't say it was in 2008 because that is not got good language. I'm not entirely sure when it was. Here is an idiomatic expression. I don't use too many of these because students then want to use them in writing and they're not appropriate for writing, or they will use them in speaking and then just not quite right. This one here means I didn't feel very well. If you feel under the weather, you don't feel your usual self. You feel not very good. I had a particularly bad chesty cough, particularly instead of saying a very bad chesty cough. Now we have different types of coughs. We have chesty coughs where it's coming from your chest area and it's usually thick with mucus and you can really hear the mucus on your chest when you're coughing. Tightness in my chest. This is when your chest area feels very tight and you find it very difficult to breathe. Some good past continuous, because you're talking about something in the past, and past continuous is very good for telling stories. It was keeping me awake. I was feeling pretty rough. This means I was feeling bad, but much more complex way of saying it. I was feeling pretty rough. If you feel rough, you feel bad. This is idiomatic. It's not suitable for IELTS writing, but it's great for IELTS speaking. To be off school, this is another collocation. It means to not go to school, to have a sick day, to be off school. When we're talking about any kind of illness or infection, we talk about it clearing up, to clear up, and it means to disappear, to go away, to recover from it. And here is a very useful little phrase, our GP, the GP. It means general practitioner, but you don't need to say that because we don't often use that, the full words. We just say the GP, and it means a doctor. So it's a great way and an easy way to substitute doctor with GP. So when you go to the doctor and you have a problem with your chest, they usually listen to your chest with a stethoscope. Haven't put a stethoscope in, but if it's a word you're familiar with, then use it. He listened to my chest with a stethoscope and asked me about my symptoms. When you are ill, you have symptoms. A symptom can be a headache, a cough, back pain. These are all symptoms of an illness, so very useful for this topic. We've mentioned the tightness before. Shortness of breath. This again, when you're struggling to breathe because your chest is very tight, it gives you a shortness of breath. The chesty cough. So we're describing the cough as a chesty cough. And so I was suffering from a chest infection. Now you might want to talk about a time you had a different infection, an ear infection, a throat infection, but very useful word. To cure means to get rid of something, so to take some medicine to get rid of the infection or the illness. Now, antibiotics are what you take. You have to go to a doctor in the UK to get the antibiotics, and they kill the infection. And we talk about antibiotics as a course of antibiotics, and this is often 5 days of antibiotics, a course of antibiotics. Now, what doctors do is they prescribe antibiotics, or they prescribe medicine, or prescribe treatment. They sometimes give you a prescription. This is a piece of paper which is written on what the treatment is, what the medicine is, which you take to the chemist. So he prescribed the antibiotics. I was so relieved. Happy is another way of saying this. I was so relieved to get some treatment. The treatment is what the doctor prescribes to cure the infection. So after the first dose, so each time you take some medicine, we call it a dose. The cough had almost gone. Some past perfect here, which is very impressive if you know how to use it. The doctor said it was vital, very, very important, to finish the course of antibiotics. We talk about finishing the course of antibiotics, and it means taking it for the 5 days or whatever the doctor has prescribed. When you go to the doctors, the GP in the UK, we call it the doctor's surgery. And finishing on some fantastic passive grammar, the infection had been cured. So quite a tricky topic. If you do get this one, try and remember the words I've used in it, such as symptoms, chesty cough, tightness, shortness of breath, infections, a course of antibiotics, a dose of medicine, a GP. So all of these things will help you to get a much higher band score. Thank you very much for watching.